students, welcome back to class. Some of you have been asking me, whatever happened to that guy, John Robert Bell, that you were talking to, Miss Katie, all the time on TikTok? Well, I decided to have a look to see if anything has changed on his TikTok account. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to report that he is still vegan-phobic. He is still cruel to animals. He still encourages people to pay for the rape, the torture, the confinement, the sadness, and the murder of innocent animals who never did a single thing to him. It's really unfortunate. My first contact with John Robert Bell was over here on this day. It looks like the date here on the account is August 20th. Now, I was minding my own business on TikTok, just teaching about animal rights and trying to encourage people to watch the important documentaries like Earthlings and Dominion Movement, Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, and to try to get people to see that animals are sentient beings. Now, this guy, he had a channel, and he was, at first glance, I thought, well, he seems interesting. He seems to be trying to help people. So I thought, okay, whatever. He's paying attention to my account, and he's just a little bit, misunderstanding what I'm all about. Because the first video here, what he did is you see the expression on his face, he's like really angry because I'm explaining what the definition of veganism is. I explained that the definition is this one by the Vegan Society. But he was somebody who just looked it up in the dictionary and just said, well, no, being vegan is just about food. So I tried to tell him the real definition, so let's look at it together. Veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. So in other words, what I was trying to tell John Robert Bell is that it is not just about the food that we eat. It is about, especially about the animals and protecting them to do the least harm. Now, what he continued to do, even though he was proven wrong, is instead of turning it around and saying, oh, okay, Miss Katie, you have a good point, he kept on attacking me. It was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen, because he seems like a man who has a head on his shoulders, but I never knew the extent of his narcissism until it kept going on and on. Now, at one point, what had happened is his account was banned. And even though he and I disagreed on many things, the moment I found out that his account was banned, I immediately made a video myself calling for his account to come back. I wrote to TikTok and I said, it is wrong to cancel somebody just because of their opinions. Because at that time, I didn't think that he was doing anything really wrong. But I still thought that it was really not okay that he wasn't vegan and that he was arguing against it. But I thought, well, there's hope for him. He might turn it around. Now, I'm not sure how many people saw my video. The last time I checked, I think it was about 380,000 people who had seen it. And then I never went back because, it goes further down in the timeline, and I was making so much content at the time. And so when his account came back, I actually wrote to him in a message, or I wrote on my account and made different speeches or whatever. And I just said, it's great. His account is back because now we can continue our dialogue. And I had sincere hope that he could become vegan. He could understand and he would do the research. But instead, what he continued to do is encourage this terrible behavior.
Chickens are probably the most abused animals on the face of the planet.
Let's look at what goes on here. I'll go right to
what you are about to see is beyond your worst nightmares. But for animals raised on modern intensive production farms and killed in slaughterhouses, it is cold, inescapable reality. Once you see for yourself the routine cruelty involved in raising animals for food, you'll understand why millions of compassionate people have decided to leave meat off their plates for good. Chickens are probably the most abused animals on the face of the planet. They are crammed into filthy sheds by the tens of thousands, immersed in their own excrement among the corpses of other birds who died of heart attacks or stress. Some even die of starvation brought on by becoming crippled from growing so large, so fast that their legs can't withstand the weight, which makes them unable to reach food. After being genetically manipulated and fed antibiotics to promote unnaturally rapid growth, their hearts, lungs, and legs often break down under the added weight.
So you see, I was trying to educate John Robert Bell, otherwise known as Jorobe, about what goes on. But instead of actually talking about the videos that I was showing, he consistently tried to argue about anything else. He never actually addressed a single point about what I said. If I said, "Have you seen the documentary? Please watch it," he would come back and try to attack my character consistently. In another video here, you see, is where I did give the definition of the vegan society, and I was explaining it. And instead of talking about that, he just talks in circles about all kinds of other things. The next video too is me here telling him, you know, "John, it's really important that you educate yourself. Maybe you don't know what's really going on with the animals, but why don't you have a look?" So this went on, and every time that I put a video up, you see here's another. He did, at one point he did 4 in a row, and here's another one. And here he was doing this thing where he would talk about a trigger warning. Well, he would do a trigger warning like this, trigger warning, and then he would start to talk about something. And so I called him out on that, and I said, "You know, John, if you say trigger warning and then you immediately start talking about something that is harmful, that is a trigger to people, it's not really a trigger warning. It's like saying, trigger warning, I'm about to shoot," and then you shoot right away. You need to give people a chance to decide, oh, do I want to see this or not? Is this going to upset me or not? And I said, at least wait 10 seconds. And I tried to explain about what happens to my students when they walk into their school cafeteria and they see dead bodies there. There's no trigger warning for children who are vegan. It's extremely upsetting to them, the vegan-phobic behavior that goes on. But John didn't care about that. It wasn't anything that he was willing to address. If I tried to tell him that vegan kids, now I'm talking about kids who understand what happens in the meat industry, in the dairy industry, in the egg industry, and they understand where fur comes from, that animals are skinned alive or anally electrocuted to get fur. And when they understand all of these different complex things, and they're young, they're maybe 10 years old, 12 years old, sometimes younger, and they walk into school and they see their teacher wearing leather shoes, or they see the principal wearing a Canada Goose coat, these children are triggered. They're thinking to themselves, I don't understand. My mom taught me that Canada Goose comes from so much violence, so why is my principal wearing a coat like that? Why is the gym teacher wearing a coat with a fur trim around? Why is my friend's mom wearing a coat stuffed with feathers? So I was trying to explain to John Robert Bell that in real life, kids who are vegan get no trigger warnings at all. I was trying to make him understand the link there and how he cares. He seems to care about trigger warnings, but it's a bit of a hypocrisy, because when it comes to animals and animal rights and children who are suffering from dystopia, the anguish of being vegan in a non-vegan world, John has he just goes blank. He doesn't seem to understand the connection there. If a vegan child goes to a school event, like a barbecue, and they're raising money for something, or it's just a happy event, last day of school or whatever, and this vegan child sees all kinds of dead bodies on the grill, which are when I'm talking about that, I mean sausages and hamburgers. And this child is aware about what happens in these industries. These children are triggered. There's no trigger warning for them. They get immediately sad. They think, why is my school serving dead animals? Why is my school not serving vegan hot dogs and vegan burgers? Now, instead of John, coming onto my side and saying, hey, Miss Katie, that's a good point. you know, I'm going to look into this veganism thing. I'm going to look into it and see if that's something that, you know, makes sense to me or that I could, you know, just be open to. He immediately started to try to ridicule me and to complain about my videos and to have me taken down. And it's really disappointing, actually, because I couldn't help but think that if I ever was able to get into a room with him, just the two of us, and explain this to him, that we are not just these characters, you know, these like whatever personalities on TikTok, that we're actually human beings. I tried hard to reach him in every different way. Sometimes through humor, sometimes through just, you know, telling it like it is, sometimes trying to be soft about it. I tried all kinds of different approaches with him, and it just didn't really seem like anything was working. So this is where I was talking about his bullshit trigger warning and just saying how it didn't make sense. And here I'm giving the example of you should wait 10 seconds, that at least, or some kind of time. And I gave the example about using a ball and I showed him there. You can see I'm saying that's like me saying, here, catch, and then throwing it at somebody's head. Like, that's not a trigger warning. And you see the smirk on his face. He doesn't get it. He really doesn't understand. It's bizarre. Now, he does a whole bunch of other videos, and here's another one he did of me. Here's another one he did of me. This is me, you know, continuing again to try to explain that that you if you are part of a religion that is hurting animals, that encourages you to be mean, cruel to humans. You know, if you're part of a religion that tells you you should go and bomb buildings, like, you should maybe just not be in that religion. If you're part of a religion that says thou shalt not kill, but then serves dead bodies in the church, maybe you shouldn't be part of that religion. And he went on to try to explain how he is a religious person, and that I guess he was trying to convince me that that meant that he was somehow good. And what I kept doing is I kept going back and explaining about the animals.
Heart attacks and crippling leg deformities are far too common. A PETA investigation found this farmer killing sick and injured turkeys by beating them with a metal rod and then tossing them aside, leaving them still conscious and suffering. This was deemed legal and standard by the industry. This undercover video shows the standard method of gathering chickens for slaughter. After enduring weeks in filthy, crowded conditions, the animals are loaded onto trucks and taken through extreme weather conditions without food or water to slaughterhouses.
Now again, I want to emphasize that what you're seeing here is standard legal practices. Legal. People think that animals have rights, but chickens, cows, pigs, these animals that people consume, people like John Robert Bell eat, they do not have the right to their body integrity. And yet John Robert Bell consistently was talking about how, you know, consent was important, things like that. And I would say, John, do you think that these sentient beings consented to being harmed in this way? And yet, right over his head. Fascinating. His cognitive dissonance never left. It stayed. And it's still there now. After, I'm not sure how long it is now. I think my first contact with him was in August of 2020. So that would be August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It's been, yeah, I'd say at least 9 months, something like that. And it's very disappointing that John has not changed at all and that he still supports this.
Where they are snapped into shackles by their fragile legs and have their throats slit, often while still conscious. Many are scalded alive in the feather removal tanks. If you thought it couldn't be any worse, think again. Between 5 and 11 hens are crammed into tiny wire cages during egg production. The animals might go insane from the oppressive conditions and attack one another, so their beaks, which are filled with nerve endings, are painfully seared off with a hot blade.
This is what John Robert Bell is okay with. This is what he continued to encourage, even as I consistently asked him. You could see here, it says, watch the important documentaries, Earthlings, Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives. I was consistently trying to get him the message to please stop hurting the animals. And yet, in defiance, look at his face. Look at my shirt, vegan, because paying for the rape, sadness, and murder no longer tasted good. I did everything possible on TikTok to try to encourage people to go and see the documentaries. That was my number one hope, is that people would educate themselves. And many people did. And in fact, it's quite nice. Just yesterday again, I got yet another message that said, Dear Miss Katie, I'm so sorry. I used to be a fan of John Robert Bell's. And I used to laugh at you and make fun of you. And then I finally, after months and months and months, went to see these important documentaries, Earthlings, Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, and the list goes on. And I'm so sorry, Miss Katie, that you're off TikTok. I'm so sorry, because you belong back on there. And that's really heartfelt, and it does touch me, because I sincerely feel that people like John Robert Bell, who consistently complained about me calling them out, well, I think it's really unfortunate that that happened, because TikTok needs adult women with gray hair on there who are nurses and who are teachers to try to educate people. Now, people often say, well, you're not doing activism the right way. You need to do it this way. But they're not vegan yet. So why would I listen to them? They have surely been shown all different ways about veganism. They've seen pamphlets, they've seen videos like this, they've seen t-shirts, they've seen all kinds of things, all kinds of documentaries. Some people are just evil at their core. And sadly, I think that John Robert Bell might be one of those people. Here's yet another video where I was talking about changing your religion if it's hurtful. Here I was talking again about the trigger warnings and how it's so important that we are kind to vegan children. And you know, he would do things like he would give lip service to it. He would say that, yeah, I like vegans, I have nothing against vegans. And yet he would keep eating dead animals on camera. In this video here, I'm talking about, I'm saying something, I'm pretty sure this is the video where I'm talking about two things. I did two videos. One of them I said that I was not going to give my organs to, I wasn't going to sign for the organ donation. Oh, I know what this video is about. Okay, yeah, this is the one where I was saying, well, okay, let's go back. There were two videos I did. There's so much stuff here, it's hard to find. But in one video, I said that I was not going to donate my organs because I didn't want them to go to people who are going to keep paying for this cycle of violence. Like, let's say John Robert Bell died and he got my heart, and then he went on to keep on buying dead animals. It would be like my body is encouraging him to keep paying for all the chickens that he's part of. He buys loads of chicken wings at one shot, which is many innocent animals. And you already saw what happens to them. So here I was actually saying if there was anybody who wanted to make a short music video to my song, you know, feel free to do it, and you know, I will promote your work. And he, instead of talking about the contents of the song, which is about, you know, heaven is vegan, and my point was not that heaven's up there, but that we create heaven on earth when we are kind to the animals. That was my point. And instead of talking about that, he made it seem like I was doing something wrong by saying, hey, if anybody wants to make a music video, I created the song, you can do put the images together, that would be great. He made it seem like I was somehow trying to steal from somebody and that I should be paying people for their work. I don't know, maybe he thought I was getting money on TikTok. I didn't get a penny on TikTok. Not one single cent. I was not monetized at all there. And here I was trying a different approach. I was sort of calling him out on his cognitive dissonance, trying to explain to him that, you know, there's a disconnect between his head and his heart, and that it takes 100 clicks to become vegan. And so some people need more time. Unfortunately, no approach that I did worked. Here I was just doing a cute little song to my students, and he went in and started attacking that. And that is basically talking about speciesism being the purest form of racism. See, when kids are taught at a young age that it's okay, no big deal, you can eat that animal, oh, you can step on an ant, who cares? Then, and you see this kind of thing over and over, then it's no wonder that we have a society that is cruel to Black people and to the LGBTQ community, because we start to group people and think that they are less than other groups. And this is why the Holocaust started too. Because people just decided, well, these Jews, their lives don't matter. And that is wrong. It's wrong. You know what else is wrong? Somebody will take what I just said right now, and they will edit that, and they will make it seem like I said the opposite of what I actually said. The lives of Jewish people do matter. The lives of chickens do matter. The lives of Black people do matter. All lives matter. And no, that does not mean that I'm racist. It means that I acknowledge the sentience of everyone. Here, another video. Again, I'm trying to convince John to look at what's really going on and to think about the animals, trying to get him to see the footage of what happens.
These hens are so crowded that they are unable to spread even one wing during their entire miserable lives. They are unable to do anything natural, such as dust bathing or foraging through the grass.
This is what John Robert Bell supports. I, that vegan teacher, consistently on TikTok was giving the message that this is wrong. And John Robert Bell did the opposite. He consistently said, it's okay, do whatever. Eating animals, his exact words was, eating animals is fine, do whatever. And you see, that's what the problem in our society is, that people who are cruel in this world have huge platforms, and those who are kind, who are not sponsored by the meat, dairy, and egg industries, and often our videos are not monetized, our outreach is only this big. And that's why it's a shame that I'm no longer on TikTok, because I was able to get to many, many kids, and many of them became vegan because of me. And it's unfortunate that the animals are now suffering. So again, I encourage you, though, to follow the important other vegan accounts out there, real animal rights activists that are still on TikTok. You can see my other videos if you want, and you'll see who I support. Oh, and by the way, that reminds me, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing, because I will be calling out carnists. I will be calling out vegan-phobic, cruel people like John Robert Bell. He's vegan-phobic. It's unfortunate, but he really is. And I don't think he's going to change anytime. I've kind of lost hope for him. However, you never know. There could be somebody in his life. Let's suppose he's attracted to somebody who is vegan. That would make a huge difference. Or if he is somehow if something happens to him, if he's in a let's say a part of his life where he is sad about things, you know, something bad happens, and then he watches footage like this, he might actually make the connection to the animals. But right now, his narcissism, his self-centeredness, his self-absorption is far too powerful, and he can't see what's really happening. He's just unable or unwilling.
It takes an average of 34 hours in these conditions to produce just one egg. When egg production drops, producers often shock the bodies of the worn-out birds into another laying cycle by withholding food for up to 14 days. Many die of starvation. Because their bones...
John Robert Bell supports this. Do you support this? Are you vegan yet? How can I help you? What should I do? How many hours of footage do I need to show you? Do you want me to scream at you and tell you that you're an evil person for supporting this? Or do you want me to get on my knees and beg and ask you politely, please, please, John Robert Bell, please stop contributing to this? Now, the reason that it's so important that somebody like him becomes vegan is because he has a huge following, and he's teaching young people to laugh at animal rights activists. He's teaching them to laugh at children who are vegan, and adults and grandparents. I'm not okay with it. John Robert Bell is truly evil.
Are so weak and their bodies so worn down. Up to 90% of hens have broken bones or are hemorrhaging by the time they make it to slaughter. Cattle are castrated, have their horns chopped off.
John Robert Bell supports this. He says clearly, eating animals is fine. That's what he says. He made fun of my song, the one that I sang outside of McDonald's, where I said, eating animals is wrong, McDonald's. Hurting animals is wrong. Share this song and be vegan from now on. Those were my words. What he could have done, John Robert Bell could have said, hey, good point, everyone. Let's try to encourage McDonald's to have more vegan foods. But that's not what he did. He made fun of my song. And he promotes this.
And are repeatedly branded, all without painkillers. At auctions, electric prods are used to torment the frightened animals into going where the workers want them to go. The USDA allows meat from animals with cancerous lesions and pus-filled wounds to be certified as USDA pure.
John Robert Bell supports this. I have asked him repeatedly to speak out against animal cruelty. He never does. In his account, he does all kinds of other things. And here's another one where I'm trying to encourage people to eat vegan foods. Here I'm also encouraging another TikToker to stop eating dead animals on camera. Here again, I'm consistently trying, I'm appealing repeatedly to John Robert Bell's sense of humanity to ask him to please stop encouraging this.
So injuries and illnesses often go untreated. After enduring close to a year crammed into feedlots, cattle are loaded onto transport trucks and shipped through all weather extremes. At slaughter, their throats are slit open, and many are skinned and dismembered while still fully conscious.
Animals that are being eaten for food are treated like objects. They're treated no differently than a sign, a piece of paper. Nobody cares what happens to them. I care. Animal rights activists care, but the vast majority of people don't know what's going on. And when they do find out, they close their ears and they close their eyes and they don't want to see it. Now, I close my eyes because I'm extremely traumatized by it. And when I do these videos, I often break down and cry, and I really don't want to do that. Because it's so painful to watch it over and over again and to know that there are people on TikTok who continue to promote it. It breaks my heart. I urge you to share my videos and to subscribe to this channel. Tell people that that vegan teacher is still here. Let them know that I'm still here teaching, regardless of how many people are watching. I will continue to call out people like John Robert Bell. You see, the size of my audience is out of my control. But the size of my heart, that's my control. I will continue to feed my heart the goodness in this world and make sure that it never stops. I want to be a good person, and I want to keep talking about the animals. I really, really hope that someone can reach John Robert Bell. And I thank so many people here who are helping me to get the message out. If it weren't for all of you, I would not be here. You have given me so much support, financially and emotionally. Some people give me $3 a month, and that really helps. When many people do that, it sustains me. It allows me to keep going, because videos like this are often not monetizable. I can't get enough money to sustain myself by doing this job full time, because the meat, dairy, and egg industries don't want to advertise their products here. So it's very hard to try to show these images and get paid at the same time. I'm doing this because it's so important to me that everyone knows what veganism is. That is my goal. I want everybody to know that veganism is about the animals, and I want them to know what goes on. After that, it's up to them what they do with it, with all of the information.
Dairy cows have it even worse. Even though they give milk for the same reason that humans do, for their babies, on today's dairy farms, mother cows are treated as nothing more than milk machines. 40% of dairy cows are lame by the time they reach the slaughterhouse.
They're so injured. This is why it's so important not to drink milk. And in one of John Robert Bell's videos, he makes fun of me and then takes cream, which comes from the milk of a cow, and he pushes it in his mouth and he just laughs. It's despicable. It's heartbreaking how cruel of a person he is. Here he is again. I'm talking about coming out as a member of the LGBTQ community. I am bisexual, and I was saying that when people come out of the closet as vegan animal rights activists in their families, that they should be treated well, that they should be loved and cherished and embraced. And you see his reaction to that is not at all to talk about the animals. He doesn't talk about the animals. I explain that when a child or a teenager says, "Mom and Dad, I want to be vegan," that those kids are often ostracized. Their parents say, "No way can you be vegan in this household. You eat your meat." I have had children write to me and tell me that their fathers have hit them because they refuse to eat meat that's on the table. I have had people call me and tell me that their mothers start crying because they're so upset because now they have to cook 2 different meals, one with dead animals and one without. It is very hard. There is vegan phobia everywhere in the world. I have had students tell me that their teachers have laughed at them when they have cried because another student waved bacon in their face, and the teacher just said, "Oh, come on, it's just bacon. What are you crying about?" And the child is like, "That's a dead pig." And see, people like John Robert Bell are the biggest bullies, the biggest vegan phobics. And they don't see it. Or they just don't care. They're just narcissistic. Maybe they're psychopaths. I don't know. Here's another one of me explaining why we should not be mean to animals. And you see the look on his face. He's like, "No. I was talking about how it's important to not ban words and that we should ban cruelty instead." And does John talk about the animals? Never. Later on, he also talks here. He makes a point in this video. "So you understand now, John? That's why it's so important to be morally consistent. If we're sticking up for the marginalized groups of society, the animals are the ones who are suffering by far the most, by the billions in these factories." I don't know if you can hear what I'm saying here, but I'm trying to tell him that it's really important to be morally consistent and to not hurt the animals. Oops. Let me see if I can. Factory farms.
I promise I won't anymore.
That's a... Says he promises he won't, and I was sort of making a joke about a promise where he was promising something, and I was saying, oh great, so you promise you won't hurt animals anymore? And no, he made a point of saying, you know, so watching himself, showing himself going in and buying these dead body parts. Again, promoting this and thinking it's funny.
They are hooked up to machines a few times per day, machines that often injure them. At the end of their lives, they are either sent straight to slaughter or are sold for slaughter at cattle auctions.
These poor animals are treated like slaves, like nothing. And people like John Robert Bell think that it's okay to continue this. I'm not okay with it. John Robert Bell, you should be ashamed of yourself. Anyone who supports him should be ashamed of themselves. Whatever it looks like that he is on the surface, if he is paying for this cruelty and encouraging it to go on, that tells you all you need to know about what kind of a human he is. Despicable.
More than 100,000 cows are unable to walk off the transport trucks every year.
More than 100,000 cows are so ill that they can't even walk off the transport trucks. And those are the animals that you eat when you eat burgers, when you eat sausages, when you eat ham and bacon. You are eating somebody who suffered so much for their entire life of confinement. How can you continue to do that? How can you continue in good conscience? I'm asking you to be vegan from now on. I'm asking you to stop paying for this terrible suffering.
Yet they are slaughtered for human food anyway. At a fraction of their natural lifespan, they're shipped to slaughter. Most hamburger in this country comes from spent dairy cows.
Students who are watching, I want you to know that the only way that I can cope with watching these videos over and over is to try as hard as I can to try to deep breathe when they are on and try to tune it out. But it's vital that I show it here on my channel. But it's excruciating to me, and I often cry on camera, or as soon as the video is finished, I just throw myself into a pillow and bawl my eyes out. To my own students, you don't need to watch these videos here. I am here for those who are not yet vegan so that you will know what's going on. And I am so sorry to expose those who are already suffering from dystopia, the anguish of being vegan in a non-vegan world. I'm so sorry to show these. And I urge you also, if you are here trying to help in the comment section to moderate, please put on some headphones and just type comments to help educate people in the premieres. You don't have to watch these. It's okay. I care about you so much, and I don't want you to suffer. My heart is with you, everyone who is a vegan animal rights activist. And I show this, again, only for people like John Robert Bell and his fans to hopefully in some way get through to them. See, the problem with TikTok is I could never show footage like this. And so it was just extremely difficult to make that connection with somebody like him. That's why I was trying so hard to get him to watch this kind of footage, the documentaries. That's why I imagine if this was your dog? John Robert Bell has a dog. How does he not make the connection? How is it that he thinks he is a good person? When he does this, he pays for this. He eats this. He puts this into his body. He promotes this to his fans. Close to 5 million fans. It is my sincere hope that he either changes or that he perishes, choking on the very flesh that he consumes. And no, that's not a death threat. That is just me hoping. He's had long enough time to change. It takes 100 clicks until you become vegan. I have been trying to appeal to his head, to logic, and to his heart for a very long time. Many, many videos. And yet when my account went down, he had great joy in laughing at me. Imagine that. Imagine being happy when an animal rights activist is silenced. What does that tell you about somebody? He just doesn't want me in his face anymore. And, you know, he succeeded. I'm not there on TikTok with the platform that I once had. I always have an account going, but it's always taken down by the meat, dairy, and egg industries, and by people such as himself, and the millions of fans who consistently reported my accounts and saying that I was doing something wrong when I never was. I was consistently supporting kindness to people. I was always supporting the Black people and the LGBTQ communities. My heart goes out to anyone who is oppressed. I made that very clear repeatedly. But somebody like him, all he wanted to do was try to find fault in anything that I posted and try so hard not to look at this.
Cows give milk for their offspring, not for human beings. These mother cows are impregnated annually to keep the milk flowing, and their babies are torn from them shortly after birth, which causes both of them profound distress. Many of the males are sold to veal farmers, who cram them into tiny crates where they cannot turn around or even comfortably lie down. If you're consuming milk, you're supporting the veal industry.
John Robert Bell, stop eating ice cream. Stop eating cream. Stop drinking milk. Stop supporting this. Be vegan from now on.
Veal calves who can barely walk because their muscles have atrophied from a lack of use and an anemia-inducing diet are also often sold at auctions. Confined to tiny stalls that don't even allow mother pigs to turn around for most of their pregnancy, the first time that these animals will breathe fresh air is when they are on the back of a truck headed for the slaughterhouse.
John Robert Bell supports this. He tells his fans, eating animals is fine. That's what he says. This is what he supports.
Many will go insane from the complete lack of stimulation.
John Robert Bell is cruel. John Robert Bell could speak out against this. He has 5 million followers. He could say, let's all stop eating animals. Let's stop it right now. Let's be vegan. But he doesn't.
Shortly after birth, baby pigs have their ears mutilated, the ends of their teeth chopped off, their tails cut off, and they are also castrated, all without any painkillers. pigs who aren't growing quickly enough, called
John Robert Bell. Stop. Stop supporting this. Tell your 5 million fans to be vegan from now on. Try to reach into your religion, which supposedly is making you a good person, but is in fact making you a piece of shit. Whatever you get from your religion, it's not working. If you think that there's good in there, then why are you still supporting this? You think that God wants this? You think that Jesus wants this? How fucked up are you? It is evil. It's wrong. There's nothing funny about it.
fall-behinds are killed by being slammed headfirst against the concrete.
How would you like it if somebody did that to your dog? If your dog had been born a little bit too small? John Robert Bell, you're always talking about the people of society who are minorities and who are different than everyone else, the disabled. You had the gall to say that I was being cruel against disabled people. I wasn't. I was saying that everyone can strive to be vegan. If somebody's in a wheelchair, John Robert Bell, that does not mean that they can't be vegan. They have their head in the right place and their heart. You're the one who is ableist if you talk down to them. Don't be cruel. Don't be a hypocrite. And don't support this. Murder, torture, agony, cruelty.
Concrete floor, as you see here. Like chickens, pigs grow so quickly that they can't walk normally. Their limbs simply can't sustain their drug-induced bulk. Many pigs become ill or injured, but are not put out of their misery because as long as they're still alive, they have a chance of generating profits for the company if they can make it to slaughter.
Are you really okay with this, John Robert Bell? Really? Anybody who knows John Robert Bell, make sure that he watches this video. You can find it on PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Look at the title. Take a screenshot. 10 shocking PETA videos. Find this one. It's called Want Fries with That? Make sure he sees it. If you are anybody who is close to John Robert Bell, make sure he sees what he is promoting and make sure that he stops.
Those who obviously can't make it to the slaughterhouse are shot with a captive bolt gun so that they don't waste the company's money by eating feed.
I've had enough. Have you? Have you had enough? Is anybody here still watching? How can you bear it? I can't. I am suffering from dystopia, the anguish of being vegan in a non-vegan world, trying very hard every day to give you the message. And I need a little bit of hope. People like Gordon Ramsay have ridiculed this and continue to promote this. People like Daz Games on YouTube, who has 5, maybe 6 million followers now, continue to promote this, to ridicule animal rights activists like me. People like D'Angelo Wallace continue to promote this and to ridicule animal rights activists like me. People like Ethan Trace, who is on TikTok with over 2 million followers, keep continuing to promote this and ridicule animal rights activists like me and like my students. And it's just wrong. And anybody who has a true heart knows that it's wrong. I urge you all to please become vegan from now on. Please support this channel. Please support animal rights activists. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm going to stop because I need to for my own mental health.